we're gonna get started with the how do I call it?
Announcement.
Thank you. That sounds a lot better than what I had in mind. So we're gonna start with the announcements. Then I'm gonna do a reading so that we can just calm down and get into the groove. Do an initial prayer, and then we start with the talk, okay? Okay, so special Mother's Day afternoon. So Mother's Day is May 11th this year, and we do have a meeting on that day, so everybody's welcome. But on the day before, Saturday, May 10th, we're gonna have an event for all mothers. Mothers of regular children, pet moms,
Dog mom.
husband moms.
That is cheeky one. I like it.
You know, it's not always, but it happens. So
They
everybody
will have their chance to say something when it's Father's Day.
right?
Perfect.
Perfect. So we are gonna have an event with like lots of treats, and we have like one craft project for everybody who comes to work on. So we get to have fun, we get to make or build something cool as well. So you're welcome to come. We just need people to RSVP so we know, like for the craft project, we know how much material we need to buy. Okay? Perfect. Thank you.
Renata,
Yes.
it's for the whole family or just for, like, can we bring kids or?
It's not that you can't. It's just that this is supposed to be an afternoon for the mom
Okay,
to
good.
enjoy
Mom
and
time.
relax.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
like
that's what
your
I
time.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
it's not that you can't, but we're not gonna have the kids' education or
Okay.
anything like that.
Okay.
So you can bring them if they can entertain themselves in a smaller room or something. However, it won't be your
Yeah.
time for yourself.
Yeah.
So the idea is, 2 hours of rest, of remembering that you are your own person for 2 hours.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Like the macarons.
After that picture, I won macarons.
Conectou aí.
No?
Didn't connect. We can connect it later. You can do the prayer.
Okay. Ha. See, I feel so proud of myself. Did it on my
Here
own.
you are. Tech savvy.
We are already proud of you.
Thank you. You're the best. Okay, so I'm going to read a text from the book Our Daily Bread, in Portuguese, Pão Nosso. It's text number 35, and I was really amazed that a book written in 1950 pretty much summarizes this talk from a book from like 10 or 12 years ago. So it is like the perfect companion for the subject we're going to see today. So I recommend, because reading out loud is not the same. If you guys can find it either in Portuguese or in English, the book, both Portuguese and in English, you can find the PDF for free online on the website O Consolador. If you go O Consolador Library, you can find the books Portuguese, English, Spanish, French. There's lots of free books there. So it's called An Active Christ. And then it's the passage on the Bible. It's a letter from Paul to the Galatians. And Paul says, "For God, who was at work in the ministry of Peter, Simon Peter, as an apostle to the Jews, was also at work in my ministry as an apostle of the Gentiles." And Emmanuel says, "Human vanity always pretentiously maintained the Christ within sectarian religious cycles. However, Jesus continues his activities wherever the principle of righteousness flourishes. Within all the venues of terrestrial evolution, in the sanctuaries and in academies, we see the presence of restless beginners, the false believers, and unfortunate fanatics who light the spark in the bonfire of opinions and maintain them. In spite of this, men of the true faith come forth, surging as sacred vehicles to the active Christ. Simon Peter centralized all the evangelical tasks of the emerging gospel, readjusting the aspirations of the chosen people. Paul of Tarsus was a powerful magnet in the renovation of the Gentiles. Through both, the Master expressed himself with a sole objective: the perfecting of human beings for the divine kingdom. It is now time to recognize the light of those eternal truths. Jesus continues to work, and his infinite mercy is revealed wherever love is erected toward the supreme ideal. No one should feel victim to the unjust complaints accusing the sincere and devoted disciples of retaining divine privileges. Let each apprentice make every effort to establish in his or her heart the propitious atmosphere on behalf of the manifestations of the Father and his emissaries. Work, study, serve, and help others always in search of the superior spheres, and you will feel the active Christ at your side, engaged in everyday activities. So let's close our eyes. Let's take a deep breath in and out. One more deep breath in and out. Last time, one more deep breath and out. Dear Father, of love, of mercy, of infinite patience and love towards us. Dear Master Jesus, dear spiritual mentors of our house, our guardian angels, we thank you for one more day. We thank you for many more opportunities to exercise our discernment, for many more opportunities to make choices based on God's laws, to make choices based on the law of love, charity, justice. We thank you for the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the wealth of knowledge that Jesus left us. One more opportunity to reflect on ourselves based on all the moral code Jesus left us. May we today here at this simple meeting be able to understand a little bit more about Jesus' teachings. May his teachings touch our hearts so that we leave here today able to make better reflections and able to try and apply those reflections and that knowledge in our lives during the week. So be it. Okay, so this is part 2. Lately it feels like I can't do a talk only, in one part. So we are gonna go very quickly through part 1, and then we're gonna focus on part 2. Sound fair? Yeah? Okay. So this talk was based on this book, The Sublime Prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. And the proposal of this book is to use the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi to teach us how to work on our moral transformation. Like, where do I start? How do I do this? So this is kind of a practical guide for our moral transformation. At the end of most chapters, there are like visualization exercises, like, life experience exercises. So it's really a practical guide to our moral transformation. And
What's the name again?
we don't have it translated yet. I can translate for you. Our ChatGPT is awesome. A Sublime Oração de Francisco de Assis. Okay. As you can see, there's flags, there's highlights, underline,
stickers.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's a book that explains the prayer in
Mhm.
details and how that can relate to ourselves. So if we are preaching love, like if we want to give love, we need how we making that love in ourselves first. I guess that's that kind of idea for
Yes.
the prayer.
So, and the prayer starts, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. So, how? How do we get there? Again, this is sort of a practical guide. So, again, based on this book, Sublime Oração de Francisco de Assis, free translation, Sublime Prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, and of course, Genesis. So first we're going to look at the prayer, and then we're going to go into what the book teaches. So this talk is mostly the second chapter of the book. So the prayer goes, Lord, make me an instrument. Why am I breaking my neck? Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Does everybody know sow?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? Plantar? Okay. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. And where there's sadness, joy. So we have a list of our egoic feelings, right? So hatred, injury, discord, doubt, despair, sadness. And then we have the virtue that would dispel that egoic feeling. So where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, let me sow pardon. But we can't give what we don't have. So if I want to sow pardon and I'm not able to forgive, is it sincere? Is it from my heart? So that's the idea. O Divine Master, grant me that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. So most of us know that prayer in Portuguese, that's what it is in English. And then we went through, no? Don't like it?
Went.
Ta-da! Yay. I fixed it by myself. Okay. I was gonna say Louise, and I was like, no, I'll try. So we reflected on what is the Lord's peace. We talked about it, right? What is Jesus' peace? What is God's peace? Remember that Jesus told us, peace I live with you. My peace I give you. I do not give it to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. So what is Jesus or God's peace?
Faith.
Is it the lack or the absence of war? Is that peace? Well, that is peace, but is that the Lord's peace?
I think it's faith, maybe trust.
I trust that you're in a temporary position, a temporary life. So the eternal life is God's peace.
And you're
Okay.
not alone. It's not only you, you have someone else taking care of you.
Okay, because I'm not fighting constantly with someone, does that mean I am at peace?
No.
No.
So the world's peace is outwards. The world's peace is lack of war, lack of fights, or lack of conflict. Everybody loves that word in interviews. But the peace of the Lord is within, right? The peace of the world is without. Peace of the Lord is within. Some people could be in the middle of chaos and still be cute as a cucumber, right? So that's the difference between the world's peace and the Lord's peace. So again, we can give people the lack of fight. That's easy. We just shut up and that's it. However, can we offer inner peace if we are not an example of it, if we don't have it within us?
No.
So before we sow peace to everybody, we need to develop that inside of us. Is that easy?
Very hard, but that's the only way to do it.
Exactly. It's personal and nobody can do it for you. Our own evolution, our own development cannot be done by anybody else, only by ourselves. And what does it take?
Effort. So it's as hard as you make it in that sense.
That is true, absolutely true. Yeah, you can make it way harder than it needs to be. So it takes effort. It takes personal effort. It takes hard work, right? Can we be an instrument of the Lord's peace? Having said that, is that possible?
Yes.
Of course.
Absolutely, yes. We discussed we can't give something we don't have. We can pretend. We can pretend all we want, but it's not going to be sincere. It's not going to be real.
You may have even have good intentions, but you're not going to be
Yes.
capable of it.
Mhm.
You don't have it.
Exactly. So how do we do that? So we follow the moral code to walk the path that Jesus taught us. So Jesus sent a lot of his messengers, right? And they taught us, his messengers taught us a lot of things. And they lived a lot of things. But Jesus lived and showed us an example of everything. When in doubt, we ask ourselves, what would Jesus do in this situation? We might not like the answer. Because sometimes that's not what we want to do.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Sometimes we still feel justified being angry. We still feel justified, like that person caused me to feel like that. That person did that to me. So we feel justified not forgiving because what somebody did to me is unforgivable. But do we want forgiveness?
Yes.
Right? So walking through the path that he taught us. He didn't just teach, he showed us how. So this book talks about 3 levels of conscience. So in order to actually work on that moral transformation, there are 3 levels of conscience we have to go through. It's not just today I decided and bam. So there are 3 levels to go through. And what are they? First level, pacification. Oh Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. So first, we need to learn to pacify our own selves. We need to acquire what we want to give. Because first we need to have it. We are only going to talk about the pacification level today. Second level is availability, is when I am ready to start working. I'm ready to go. I have the willpower. I won't succeed every single time, but I will reflect on myself and I'll keep working. I'll keep making the efforts. And the third part is autonomy. When I, by myself, am able to exercise all those virtues in the prayer, where I am able to sow all of that, love, union, peace, all of those virtues. So that's the autonomy part. It's like when I do it on my own, by myself, I'm comfortable. I am developing that virtue really well. I'm working on it and I'm comfortable with it. It could take many years. It could take many lives. How long do we have to accomplish this?
There is no timeline, everyone has their journey. But
As long as we need.
yeah, but I think you have to still remember this framework to achieve that.
It is a lot easier. If we're not going back and forth and all over the place, if we understand, it's a lot easier to work on it. Because, like Anna said, sometimes we have all the best intentions. Nobody wants to feel bad. Nobody wants to feel anxious. Nobody wants to feel sad. It's not something we want. But it can happen if we don't understand how to change it. So this is sort of a guideline of how to change it. Where do I start? There's got to be a start, right? When there's like thread on the floor all messed up, there's always the beginning. If something doesn't make sense, please. And again, today we're going to talk about the pacification parts, how to learn to appease ourselves, to bring peace to ourselves first. Because there are a few obstacles for that.
Really?
Yes.
Just a few.
Just a few. Just a few. Okay, so first thing, watch and pray. In English, watch and pray, watch and pray, watch and pray. In Brazil, we, a long time ago, learned the opposite. In Portuguese, most people say orai e vigiai, pray and watch. Wrong order. Watch and pray. What am I praying for? First I need to watch. First I need to reflect. And then I pray. And Jesus says, watch and pray so that you don't fall into
Temptation.
perfect. So we don't fall into temptation. What is tempting me? Who can tempt me? Because again, like when we I don't know the word in English. Somebody help me. Terceirizar.
Outsource.
Outsource, thank you.
Yeah.
When we outsource, like you make me
I
mad,
wish
you
we
make
could do that, eh?
right?
So easy.
I would hire the best one. So when we outsource the blame, you made me mad, you made me sad, it's always somebody else's fault. Always. Satan made me do it. The devil made me do it. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. Who can tempt us?
Ourselves, our own vices, our own
Yeah.
whatever.
And then some people might think, oh, what about obsessor spirits? Can they tempt us? Yes, if we are in the same frequency.
Yeah.
So who was in that frequency first? Who opened the door? It wasn't them, it was us. Everything starts on the self. Everything starts with us. The longer we outsource, thank you, Luis, the longer we outsource everything, the blame, the responsibility of making, somebody needs to make me better. Somebody needs to make me happy. Romantic relationship. Oh, that person doesn't make me happy. Ooh. Right? How many times have we said that? It's rhetorical, don't answer. So, only we can tempt ourselves. And what, this is, I'm looking for a very specific answer, so I don't know if you guys will, pick up what I'm putting down, but what part of ourselves can tempt us? We love it. We have two parts. We have our essential being, that is all that is good and light, and it's our essential essence, that is all good. And we have the ego. So what tempts us? Our ego or our essence?
Ego.
Yeah. That was an easy one.
Can we get rid of it? It would be so much easier, right?
Wouldn't we love that?
But I've heard actually we need it, right? For some
Yes.
reason. That's what I've
Yes,
heard.
because it's the ego itself. It's hard to explain, but the ego itself doesn't exist. The ego is an absence. So, for example, if my egoic feeling is anxiety is nothing. Anxiety is the absence of serenity. So an egoic feeling is nothing in itself. It's like darkness. It's nothing in itself. It's the absence of a virtue. So if I am easily angered, if I'm annoyed by the smallest thing, that's simply the absence of the virtue of patience. Now, when I explain it, sounds so simple and easy, right?
Very simple.
Okay. And why do we find it so hard to change?
Because we have to do the work.
Yes. Is this our first incarnation?
No.
So we've been bringing, and sometimes we've been feeding into those egoic feelings for so many years, for such a long time. So we bring all those tendencies with us. So understanding how to work on it, where to start, helps a lot. Because this is a baggage we've brought from somewhere else. We haven't acquired this all in this life. Some of it maybe, but not all in this life. So we're bringing all this baggage. So we need to slowly start from the beginning and work through it. And don't expect it's going to be like this. Patience, little grasshoppers. Well, a lot of people here are too young to understand the reference. This is Bruce Lee.
I say that to my students and they look at me like, what are you talking
Yeah, some
about?
people here are
It's
too
like
young to
crazy.
understand.
I need to find the part of the movie.
Yeah.
that, to show.
So this is a reference to Bruce Lee movies. So you guys are too young. So to understand we are going to talk. The book talks about, and I'm just a parrot repeating it, about 3 egoic temptations. 3 temptations from our ego that we've been bringing in that very heavy suitcase of ours. Okay? So let's understand what they are, because that will help us identify when we have that feeling so that we can work on it. Okay? We talked about the first one. So we're going to read the whole parable, and I'm going to go through the first one fairly quickly because we're more than halfway through. And then we're going to focus on the other 2 egoic feelings or temptations. So the whole parable is Jesus, I don't know if I break my neck, if I put on my glasses.
Do you want someone to read?
Yeah, I don't know. Does anybody want to read? I don't like to put people on the spot. Go ahead.
Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, left the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them he was hungry. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God."
Okay. Do we have another volunteer for the next?
The devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he said to him, "I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours." Jesus said to him, "Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only."
Another volunteer?
The
Okay.
devil.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry, go. No, go.
No, after.
Thank you. The devil led him to Jerusalem and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down from here, for it is written." Please, Attila.
It's very generous.
Let's share the joy.
Okay. He will command his angels concerning you to guard you carefully. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Jesus answered, "It is said, do not put the Lord your God to the test." You can finish then. Go ahead.
When the devil had finished all his tempting, he left him until an opportune time.
Perfect. Okay, so from the book Genesis, John the Evangelist explains to us that Jesus being taken by the devil to the pinnacle of the temple, pinnacle is the highest part, and then to a mountain to be tempted by him, the devil, is one of those parables that were characteristic of Jesus, and which public credulity has transformed into an actual event. So, like, people understood it as something that actually happened. But it didn't. It was just one of those parables that Jesus used. So Jesus was not actually taken, but only wanted to enable men and women to understand that humans are subject to failure and that they must always be on guard against evil inspirations. The spirit of evil could do nothing with respect to the essence of good. So here, what John the Evangelist is telling us is that, first of all, as most of us, I believe, know, there isn't one specific entity as the devil, as Satan, or something. Just like we do with God, it's easier to transfer everything into one individuality, to make it a person. Like a lot of us still think of God as an old man sitting on the throne, manhandling everybody and picking favorites and punishing everybody when he's not in the mood. So this is not what God is. But that's the vision a lot of us human beings have, right? Same thing with the devil or Satan. It's easier to put it into a personality. It's easy to personify that and transfer everything to that being and outsource everything to that being too. It's all his fault. And I'm glad that for once the bad one is not a woman. Okay, so again, like what could any spirit do to Jesus? Nothing. Like no spirit could tempt Jesus. Jesus is already in the category of a pure spirit. Like nothing can tempt him. Right? He has no ego to be tempted. So we will eventually get there. But this is absolutely not real. This never happened. It was just Jesus trying to give an example of how we can fail. Even when we think we are at the top of the temple, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm done. I did my good deeds for the week. Right? So let's go back and we're going to do what's called an exegesis, uma exegese, which is like an analysis of a passage from the Bible. So again, Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, left the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. In Portuguese, we say deserto. He was taken to the desert. Jesus foi levado ao deserto. Where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them he was hungry. So when we talk about the 40 days in the wilderness in English or desert in Portuguese, this is a symbol to talk about the preparation for a ministry, the preparation for starting something, starting a mission for missionary spirits, or for us, just assuming we're not missionary spirits, to start our own moral transformation. So it's that pause to reflect and think, how is my life going? How are things up to here? How happy I am with everything? Do I feel like it can be better? Do I feel like I can change and appease myself and develop more virtues and get closer to that eternal happiness that we see in question 115 in the Spirit's book? So this is the 40 days in the desert or wilderness. It's us looking inside and reflecting. An invitation to candidates to be Jesus' disciples, to walk the path of initiation. So again, it's that feeling that we need to make a change, that we need to improve ourselves. The saga of the essential being in search of self-illumination, dealing with the tormenting invitations of the ego, because like I said, we can ask ourselves what would Jesus do? But sometimes we might not like the answer, because what Jesus would do is not what we want to do. Those of us who have not yet achieved spiritual purity have a shadow side, symbolized by the devil in the parable. So the devil in the parable is just a symbol. And here I like they talk about shadow side, because again, what's the ego? It's the absence of virtue, just like darkness is the absence of light. So I like the word shadow here. Mm-hmm. And a light inside that walks towards being one with the Father, God, our Creator. Okay, so it's just a symbol. The 40 days in the desert is the moment we feel like it's like a breaking point. It's like, I'm not happy with the way I am right now. I feel like I can do better. I feel like I want to live better. I want to be a better person for myself first. And that's gonna reflect all around me. So far so good? Okay. So in terms of symbols, so the Holy Spirit that took Jesus to the wilderness or desert is a symbol for the profound connection with God. It's a cosmic state when we feel one with God. Like Paul of Tarsus said, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. So it is a profound connection with God. That's what the Holy Spirit is.
Interestingly enough then, going back to your earlier point, Marianne, about can you get rid of your ego, then I guess the answer is yes. Because these spirits that have attained this level, they no longer have a susceptibility to temptation. And if the only tempting force is their ego, then they must also no longer have the presence of an ego with which to be tempted. So the answer is yes, absolutely, you can get rid of your ego.
We will.
Well, there you go. You will get rid of your ego. So
but not right now. Right? Right now we still need it. Right now we still need it, but we need to learn to put the ego to our service and not us being slaves of our ego. That's the difference. We have the order inverted right now. Right now we are slaves to our egos. The idea of self-transformation is to make the ego work for us, not the other way around.
The way I see is like the ego allows us to see what's inside the bad things or the ignorances you have inside of us. Yes. So we need to acknowledge, otherwise we can't change.
Exactly.
And when do we get there? Only when we become like pure spirits? or if we are like one level below a pure spirit?
It's going to be way down the road. Way down the road.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
In this world.
When we
Just
Yeah.
keep the hope. We will get there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Okay, so deep breath. We'll get there. We'll get there. No rush.
But I feel like there may be examples. Well, Jesus came here already purified. That
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
possible on this planet, on this earth now, because Paul's an example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Paul still had his ego, and he admitted it. So
Thorn
way
in his
it's
skin.
we're talking about a scale 0 to 100. So in this life, and not only that, Paul was also prepared for all of that. The apostles were all prepared for all of that. So that's something else we also need to understand. Missionary spirits, in general, there's no one size fits all. There's no one rule. But in general, all these missionary spirits, they are already way above our level, and they come to help give us a push, to help us progress. But they have already worked on all of those before.
But they already have, they also have an ego, right? Like,
If they're not pure spirits, yes.
Okay,
A lot
pure
less.
spirits.
Think of the scale 1 to 100. So they are like
Like a
all,
spectrum.
yeah, they're going backwards to 0. So the more we develop the virtues, the more we phase out our egos.
Tende a zero.
Fez this part?
Matemática, tende a zero.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
the difference is like how he, in the example of Paul, he would still have some of those feelings, right? But the way he lived his life, even though he had those, it was different. Then sometimes we just like, oh, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm just gonna let it go.
Yeah, he's the biggest example of transformation.
Yeah, in one
But he
incarnation.
wasn't just any spirit when he incarnated.
It just shows what's possible, though.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. He
Okay.
is my best example of
Yeah.
transformation.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if one spirit can do it, every spirit can do it.
Exactly.
yes.
So the
Just
limits,
need to put in the effort.
that's exactly. And so, and that gets back to, we make it as hard or as easy as we want it to.
Mhm.
And so, I think one of the beautiful messages of Jesus and all of these disciples and apostles is that their example shows us what we are capable of.
Mhm.
And so, because none of us actually remember I shouldn't say everybody, but I certainly do not remember the agreement on which I came to this planet or the limits to which I could possibly progress, then it stands to reason that, if we have signed up for such a profound transformation,
Mhm.
there is no reason to suggest that we couldn't end this life with a feeling of profound liberation from
Oh,
any
yeah.
attachments to
Yes, sure,
egotistical feelings.
Yeah, there's absolutely a very high level of happiness or peace that you can achieve in this life. A good analogy, the only thing we need to be careful about in terms of expectations is just because we have A+ in all the subjects in grade 9 doesn't mean that we graduated high school. And this is the reason why, even though all those spirits were way ahead of us, they're still not pure spirits, they're still not like Jesus. So it's a progression. There's no law of immediate perfection. So we can improve so much, we can make way better choices, all of that, 100%. But we can't expect to go from spirits in a world of trial and expiations that are actually supposed to be in this world, not as missionaries, but like according to their world, and all of a sudden we're gonna like skip 2 or 3 worlds and go to celestial worlds or even to happy worlds. Like, it doesn't happen like that. So it is gradual. We can make it faster, no question about it. But we need to remember that we don't skip like leaps and bounds and I finished, what is, I'm so old.
And maybe
I'm so
the way
old.
we think that we are developing and we feel so much the improved from
Mhm.
like other times in our lives, in our current life, that doesn't mean that's the highest level of that virtue that we can achieve.
Exactly.
So maybe, like, if we still have certain feelings, maybe when you get to another level of evolution, then we are not going to even feel any of that. You're not. I think it's something that we don't even comprehend.
Yeah.
But again, I agree that Paul is, like, in my opinion, one of the best examples of someone who made such a huge change in one incarnation.
Yeah.
Because he was certainly more evolved than us, but he also was certainly did not incarnate to kill Jews.
No.
So that's something he did, even though he was more evolved. So
He strayed from
overcame that in one incarnation.
He strayed from the path, and then he corrected the route.
Yeah,
and went back.
exactly.
And I see Louise is standing there.
Just for further, if you want to know more, you can read the Scale of Spirits, right? The Spirits book, where you have the 10 scales and the orders, so you can have a glimpse of what's going to happen as we progress.
Yeah. Highly
And it's
recommend
not
it.
a, here, I did, now I'm this, then I'm that. No, it's
Yeah.
like gradual.
No
It's
love,
very
immediate
comforting.
perfection.
At
Yeah.
the same time, let's not just put too high expectations on us, because then we're going to be anxious.
Yeah. Guys, I need to bring everybody back because sorry, don't apologize. So wilderness is a symbol for the inner silence or the desert, the search for the essence we are. It's done alone, in silence within ourselves. Again, no outsourcing. In meditation. Meditation meaning self-reflection. So this is the moment the spirit awakens the conscience. The moment our ego reacts against this awakening and comes up with all kinds of temptations. So the moment I decided I want to be a better person, I want to change, my ego is like, no, I'm comfortable like this. Stop it. We're fine. Don't fix what's not broken. But it is broken. So, and hunger is a symbol. We are hungry for our vices, all of our bad tendencies, all those things that we know are not virtues, but still bring us some pleasure. Sometimes we still have pleasure in being angry. We still have pleasure in not forgiving because the person doesn't deserve it. Sometimes we still relish in our egoic feelings. So this is the hunger.
What is relish?
Regozijamos, nos regozijamos, ficamos felizes, gostamos, nos alimentamos com aquilo. Welcome. So, and the devil said to him, "You are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." So this is the first egoic temptation here. It is the sentiment of privilege. So if you are the Son of God, it's a challenge that produces insecurity about what we already know. We are children of God. So we start doubting ourselves, right? Why is God doing this to me? Like, I'm a good person. I go to the Spiritist Center every Sunday. I do my charity. I give money. I donate clothes in the bins.
I'm only angry someone made me angry.
Yeah! It wasn't even my fault. Right? So we are children of God. So every time we question ourselves, why is God doing this to me? You know, we are. Don't doubt. When we doubt that, we feel a big existential emptiness, which we try to fill with superfluous things, superficial things. But these are never enough. They only make the ego hungrier for more vices, right? So overcoming these insane needs of the ego is one of the biggest challenges we face. So in the part where he says, tell this stone to become bread. So here is a challenge to the law of balance. When Jesus multiplied bread, it was from bread. Fish, from fish. I will make a very simple analogy. Stem cell studies. What are stem cells?
They're the repairing cells of your body.
Yeah. They're sort of blank, and they can go to whatever part of your body that needs it. So it is, let's say, manipulation of matter. And in the beginning, when they started studying stem cells, they thought it was only found in the umbilical cord of newborns. Now they know that stem cells are actually found all over our body, because our body goes and repairs itself. And they are different from white cells. They're not fighting any disease. No, they are repairing organs. They are repairing other defective cells. So they are using what we already have to fix it. So in the book Genesis explains the miracles of Jesus. So that's what he did. He manipulated bread to bread, fish to fish, not stone to bread. That doesn't make sense.
But what about the water into wine?
It's a liquid. He didn't like completely change. He didn't turn water into a plant.
I see the source was like the same. Yeah.
So, so it's a demand of privileges from God. This is the egoic feeling of privilege, right? So if you're the son of God, you're able to do a whole lot more. Like, if you're a spiritist, you have to be able to see spirits. Why can't you write a psychograph letter for me? So the ego wants to bend the divine laws according to personal needs, right? So I want forgiveness. But Anna doesn't deserve to be forgiven. What she did is unforgivable. So I have privileges. I am more, I'm better, I'm more deserving.
Well, I forgive her, but she's not going to escape the God's justice.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, there is that too. What's hers is coming.
Yeah.
Just wait. What goes around comes around. So man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. And we also talked about this. God doesn't have a mouth because God's not a person. So we're here talking about the divine laws. So in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says that life is more than food. And every word that comes from the mouth of God is the divine laws. What God gave us, his word, is the laws that he inscribed in our conscience. All right, so going to the second. The devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world, and he said to him, I will give you all the authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours. Jesus said to him, away from me, Satan, vai de reto, Satanás. I'm serious, that's where it came from. For it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. So here we're talking about the second egoic temptation, which is the sentiment of superficiality. Jesus is the governor of our solar system. Jesus made the earth. He doesn't need anybody to give him any kingdoms of the earth. It doesn't even make sense. So another sign that didn't happen actually. So how is this the sentiment of superficiality? I will give you all their authority and splendor. So in our world, I will give you all the likes to your video, to your posting. And we see our kids, our teenagers, and a lot of adults as well, being like complete slaves to someone else's opinion of them. Yes. So exterior achievements, vanity, power, fame, personal distinction, material possessions. We still have that superficiality, that illusion that that's what matters. If I have all of that, I'm successful. Some people still see that as the measure of success. In this temptation, the ego would be adored, showing the need it has to be loved, even though it has no spiritual strength to love. So it's that temptation that talks about, I will love you if you love me. We want first. right? I want the likes, I want to be famous. We want all of that first. Then the devil led him to Jerusalem and had him stand on the highest point of the temple, or the pinnacle of the temple. If you are the Son of God, he said, throw yourself down from here, for it is written, he will command his angels, and this is part of the Old Testament. He will command his angels concerning you to guard you carefully. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. So the angels will lift you up. And Jesus answered, it is said, do not put the Lord your God to the test. When the devil had finished all this tempting, he left until an opportune time. So this brings us to the third. So the first was the feeling, the sentiment of privilege. The second, superficiality. What's outside matters more than what's inside. I want glory, I want power, I want to be adored. The third one is belief in infallibility. I'm protected. A crença na infalibilidade. I can't fail because the angels will lift me. Right? In Portuguese we have an expression, meu santo é forte. We say, my saint is strong. It's related to African religions, but the idea is, nobody can get to me. Like, I'm a fortress. Right? So I can't fail. I have the protection of the saints. I have the protection of spirits. I have the protection of God, of Jesus. So the idea of infallibility, when you can't fail, leads the apprentice to always feel supported by an excessive protection from the angels. It is a sophism. Do you guys know what is sophism?
No.
It's an argument that looks right in form, but it's actually not valid. Something used to deceive. So it makes sense. When you look at it, it's like, it makes sense, but it's not true. So that's a sophism. So the idea of infallibility leads the apprentice to always feel supported by an excessive protection from the angels. It's a sophism that places angels as servants as opposed to instructors. Let's think of our guardian angels. Are they at our beck and call because they are our servants? Or are they guiding us because they are our teachers? Right? So this is why it says it's a sophism, because you want the angels to be there to pick you up, to lift you up, but they're not there to do that. They're not there to give you the fish. They're there to teach you how to fish. Right? But we want the fish. Because fishing is too much.
When we are kind of outsourcing again the responsibility to the angels, for example.
Yes, yeah. And in this case, the feeling, the belief of infallibility, it's not outsourcing. It's like, I'm good, I'm protected. As we say in Portuguese, eu tenho o corpo fechado, my body's closed. Right? Because the angels protect me. And again, if you think about it, all three are connected. Infallibility, superficiality, and privilege, they're all connected. Right? Sometimes it's even hard to separate them because they're very intricately connected. So when the ego can't make the conscience adore the ego in the two first ones, then it tries to give excessive importance to that special relationship we have with the divine. We have a direct line with God. God's my buddy. I'll be fine. So we need to, again, watch for that.
Is there not an aspect of consolation and truth though in that? Not so much the idea of not making a mistake, but in the sense of faith, using the example again rather than a servant or an instructor. Just like any teacher, if you follow your teacher, you may make mistakes all throughout the semester, but if you keep following the lessons and you keep trying, you're eventually going to pass.
That's the 40 days in the desert. How do you differentiate? Feeling like I am God's child, like I belong in the universe, like I deserve to be loved, I deserve to evolve, is different from feeling that I can't fail because I have the backing of very powerful spirits, let's say. So that's the 40 days in the desert. And this is why it's called the parable of discernment. How do I differentiate? Because they are close. So we need a lot of reflection on ourselves to figure out which is which. Do I feel like I deserve to be loved? I feel I'm God's child. I feel I belong in the universe. I don't feel that existential isolation. It's different from feeling, but it's a very fine line from feeling superior, from feeling the
Special.
privilege. Yes.
It's a good point because I was thinking the same thing actually, Attila. 'Cause like,
Thank you, because you guys tied it together. This
Yeah.
is why it's called the parable of discernment.
Yeah.
How do we discern which is which? Because they look similar.
Yeah, I think in that case it's like waiting for angels do the things for us and we don't put any effort.
Yeah.
on things, right?
That's how it connects to the privilege,
Yes.
right? Yes.
It's
So-
all about what we do with the knowledge, right?
Exactly.
Like
So-
we're not gonna jump from the cliff just because we know.
Yeah, because the angels will hold me.
But at the same
You're
time,
not
knowing that
probably.
we're not alone is important, and there's a purpose for the things. It brings that consolation part, right? So I feel like this is a dialogue, like that will have levels when we're having this, because it's like a talk
It's
with
not a once.
ourselves,
It's
right?
not a
Like,
once and done.
yeah, it's a dialogue that we have with ourselves. And one day we may say, I can't remember what's the sentence, like, go away, Satan, whatever. And maybe will be like, one day I was like, okay, Anna, stop doing that. Or I'm not going to think about that anymore. And then, okay, I'm not thinking for a while, but it's still there. And maybe one day, instead of saying, go away, maybe I'll think, okay, now I'm going to try to change this that I'm trying to push away.
I know.
That may be
You
the
wanna
difference
You
to
want
the
to continue?
levels.
It's almost 12.
I
Yeah.
know, like I'm almost done. Promise.
Do the prayer still, and the kids.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just close because we went through the 3 egoic feelings. That was the most important.
Talk part 3.
No, there won't be a part 3. So when Jesus answered, do not put the Lord your God to the test. The word God does not refer to Jesus, like a lot of people confuse Jesus and God, but to the divine laws, which the ego insists in breaking because it feels as powerful and as loved as God. So it's when we want to take God's place. Due to the feeling of omnipotence, omnipotencia, all-powerful, the ego is trying to compete with God. Do not put the Lord to the test can be considered a proposal. Do not compete with God. We don't need to be bigger or better, even because we won't. We are good enough as we are. We are good enough for the evolutionary level we are. And all we need to do is understand how to improve, how to be even better tomorrow than we are today. And I promise this is the last. Therefore, we need to investigate in the wilderness or the desert of ourselves the egoic proposals that lead us to believe that we are bigger than the laws of God. 40 days in the wilderness or desert. The devil or our ego may leave us until an opportune time when we are not watching, hence watch and pray, and make us susceptible to temptation. So again, it's not a one and done. It's constant work, right? And that's what I have for today. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for participating. So now we're going to do the final prayer and then we're going to start the pass, okay? All right. So let's close our eyes again. And we thank you one more time, Jesus, our older brother, our teacher, our master. We thank you for all the lessons that you brought us. And we thank all the spiritual guides that brought us this interpretation, that helped us understand Jesus' words, not at face value, but what he meant to teach us. May we have a week full of reflections. May we be able to let Jesus' words touch our hearts, to help us be better tomorrow than we are today. May we have a blessed week and spread as much love as we can, as much compassion as we can, as much forgiveness as we can to all of those around us. So be it.